Why, hello there, I'm Professor Joel, and welcome to another episode of Planet Scooby Reviews. You just caught me admiring this race car. This is from Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. It looks like the zombie's got a hold of the wheels on this one side. But this side's pretty good. And this side's intact. All in all, pretty cool car. Anyway, today's episode is the spooky case of the Grand Prix Race, and it aired initially on October 8th, 1977, and it was part of the Scooby-Doo All-Star Laugh Olympics. Later on, it was repackaged as episode number 5 for season 2 of the Scooby-Doo show. Kind of confusing. I got a full list of episodes on my website called planetscooby.com. I'll leave a link below. This episode sees the gang visiting a Grand Prix race, only to run into a phantom racer who makes other drivers and their cars disappear. If you'd like to own this episode on DVD, well, you can't. Sucks to be us. Warner Brothers never made this episode available on DVD, along with 4 other episodes of season 2 of the Scooby-Doo show. These are The Curse of Viking Lake, The Creepy Heat from the Deep, and Creepy Cruise. And while other episodes of season 2 are on DVD, they're on many different DVDs spread out across dozens of DVDs. So Warner Brothers, just put the Scooby-Doo show, all 2 seasons, out on DVD as one package, please. Us Scooby fans would love that. It's been 20 years since DVDs existed. Let's get on this. It'd be cool. We'd buy it. I know DVD's a dying medium, or Blu-ray is kind of dying off too. But streaming, sometimes things disappear from streaming, and some of us fans just want to own these episodes. Enough of my complaining. If you haven't seen this episode, go stream it like I did on Boomerang or what other streaming service you may have before watching my episode, as there are spoilers galore on my reviews. So let's get to it. The episode opens at the Grand Prix time trials as Carl Conover speeds by in his race car. He unfortunately doesn't get far as the Phantom Racer appears and makes Carl and his vehicle disappear into a mysterious fog. At the ice cream shop, Freddy and the gang read all about the Phantom Racer in a newspaper, and they decide to investigate. This is one of the rare occasions where the gang do not stumble upon a mystery by accident. Heading to the racetracks, they talk to Mr. Osborne, the sponsor of the racing event. Mr. Osborne explains that the Phantom Racer is a ghost of a racer who accidentally drove off a cliff.
A Grand Prix driver went off a cliff in the fog many years ago.
Several years back. The ghost is now seeking revenge on all race car drivers. Mr. Osborne also explains that canceling the race would financially ruin him.
If I have to cancel this race, I'm afraid I'll be ruined.
Well, I'm not going to be his next victim, Osborne. I'm pulling out of this race.
Right, you can count on me, Mr. Osborne.
Me too.
However, the gang assure him that they will solve the mystery so the race can go on. Just as they finish their promise, a disheveled man stumbles into the room with terror. And Mr. Osborne recognizes him as Carl Conover, the driver we saw vanish at the start of the episode. Carl somehow got away from the Phantom, but he doesn't remember how. This sets the gang off in search for clues where they find some wide tire tracks, which they suspect are from the Phantom race car. Following the tracks, they end up at an old junkyard where they discover a jet which is missing its engine. This is strange, as a junkyard is more suited towards cars rather than airplanes. Entering an old house, they meet the junkyard caretaker,
What are you young'uns doing here?
who informs the gang that the Phantom has been haunting an antique car museum nearby, so the gang head there. Arriving at the car museum, they find it closed, so the gang sneak in. Once inside, they split up to find the Phantom. Obviously, it doesn't take long for Scooby and Shaggy to run into the Phantom Racer. Escaping his chase, they reunite with the gang where the Phantom makes another appearance. He warns the gang that whoever enters the Grand Prix race will not escape his vengeance.
No one in the Grand Prix race will escape my vengeance.
The Phantom Racer then zips off in his race car. Rushing back to the tracks to warn the racers, the gang are too late as racer Ken Rogers
You got to know when to hold 'em.
becomes the Phantom's next victim. Freddy then decides that the only way to trap the Phantom is to get the Phantom to chase them. Scooby and Shaggy are then voluntold that they will pretend to be a race car driver in order to lure the Phantom Racer. The plan works and the Phantom Racer chases Shaggy and Scooby. The Phantom also ends up kidnapping Shaggy, however Scooby is able to tell the gang that the Phantom took Shaggy to the junkyard. At the junkyard they split up to look for Shaggy. Fred and Daphne search the old house where the old man living in it is nowhere to be found. Daphne's clumsy luck, however, finds a hidden cavern beneath the house and the junkyard. The entire gang head into the caverns and once again split up. Here Daphne and Freddy find the missing race cars which have been repainted.
It looks like somebody started to repaint them. But why?
They also find a book about magical illusions and a tome on how to hypnotize. Velma and Scooby, on the other hand, find the Phantom Racer who's bricking Shaggy up behind a brick wall. There they manage to free Shaggy and the entire gang reunites. The reunion is cut short as the Phantom Racer begins chasing them in his race car. The gang hop into 2 missing race cars and through a series of lucky escapades, they end up capturing the Phantom Racer. The Phantom is revealed to be Ken Rogers.
Ta-da!
Ken Rogers! Right.
Know when to walk away and know when to run.
Who faked his own disappearance. His plan was to steal all the expensive race cars, repaint them, and then sell them overseas. The biggest clue was the airplane in the junkyard. Ken had taken the jet engine out of the airplane and put it in his race car so he could be the fastest car. He also rigged up his souped up race car like a lumber car with magnets to trap the other cars beneath it. From there, he drove it to a bat cave-like entrance to the cavern underneath his junkyard. Finally, he hypnotized the other drivers to space out and forget what had even happened. For his own kidnapping, Ken Rogers used a projector. Even the creepy junkyard watchman was all part of the ruse.
And I would have succeeded if it hadn't been for you nosy kid.
It was really just Ken in disguise to throw the snooping gang off track. With the Phantom caught and arrested, the Grand Prix race goes off without a hitch the next day. I give this episode a 10 out of 10. This was my first time ever watching this episode because it never really aired when I was a kid because I was too young at the time and I could never buy this on DVD. And when streaming became a thing, I just kind of fell out of watching Scooby-Doo. But I did hear this on the radio when I was a small child. I was probably like 10 when I heard this on the radio and I remember being so captivated by it. So it's really cool seeing these scenes come to life, especially the part where Shaggy is being bricked up. Like I remember being kind of horrified as a kid listening to this, but watching it, it's kind of really cool. And the Phantom looks very creepy and his laugh is just fantastic. I love how his head kind of looks like a zombie in like a fishbowl kind of helmet. I also dig his torn pants and sleeves. It's fun to see the gang actively investigating a mystery rather than have one fall in their lap. It's also neat to see the events of this mystery taking place during a sport where there's like hundreds of spectators all watching race cars disappear and witnessing this creepy Phantom. The cavern under the junkyard is also a lot of fun. Anyway, that wraps up this episode. If you liked it, please hit like or subscribe. I really appreciate it. Any comments I also love. I love hearing from all you fans. If you want to know more about this episode or see some still images, visit planetscooby.com. If you'd like to request an episode, leave a request below or on my website. Until next week, stay spooky.